We've mentioned feedback a couple of times in the preceding lectures. Everyone knows what this is, even if we can't always define it. More of that in a minute. Feed-forward isn't a new term, but it has become more used recently. It was actually first coined in 1974, I discovered the other day. For example, if we take time to discuss the criteria with students before they do an assessment task, this is feed-forward. You're giving them information they can use while they're doing the task. Similarly, after marking an assignment, we discuss with the class the results and indicate areas where they can improve in the future. Then this is also a kind of feed-forward. So, can we equally objectively describe feedback? Now, one of the pioneers in studying this aspect of student learning is Sadler. And there's a lot of Sadler's work actually on the internet and well worth reading. In a paper published in 1989, but which is a classic on the subject, he argued that the student must know three things from feedback. One, what good performance is. So they have to know what the level of achievement is that they're aiming for, as we've just said earlier. Two, they have to know how their current performance relates to better performance. That is, they must be able to compare what they're doing now with what they hope to do, what they aspire to do. And finally, they have to know how to act in order to close this gap between where they are now and where they want to be. And feedback, essentially, is what we give them to help them close this gap between where they are now and where they want to be. For some writers, this observation has led to the conclusion that as well as improving the quality of feedback messages, teachers should focus much more effort in strengthening the skills of self-assessment in students, and I agree with that. Many research studies have shown that students don't appreciate the feedback they get from their tutors, their teachers. Indeed, some student studies show very high levels of dissatisfaction with the feedback they get. This isn't always that surprising, actually. Given the numbers of scripts that we have to mark, the haste that we have to do it in which to comply with quality standards in the university, for example, sometimes I think that the comments that we put on their work are both badly written and not well thought through. Even though we strive our best to make these comments as informative as we can, we needn't bother because they take no notice of them mostly. As Oral points out, a lack of student engagement isn't always because they're not interested. It's really rather a failure of the assessment processes to require them to engage with the feedback they get in order to improve. Now, one of the ways we believe that you can address this omission is through peer feedback. The process of peer feedback gives students more control over feedback. They're doing it. Not all of it, but they're doing a lot of it, not you. And they help, and I think we should reconceptualize feedback as a two-stage process, where there's an initial process on formative feedback before they give in their final draft, which is provided by students and by the writer, him or herself. And the final step being the feedback that is provided by you when you've marked it. So the most important feedback, they're actually creating themselves in the group. Through reflecting on and evaluating the performance of their peers, students can develop objectivity in relation to levels of achievement, which they can then transfer to their own work. And additional benefits are that they can better understand the subject matter because they're reading about how somebody else writes about it. It encourages the development of skills of reflection and critical reasoning, analysis, independent learning, and communication. And it also gives them exposure to something which they don't get very much in most teaching, which is exposure to model answers. Now, okay, some of these answers may not be models, but they are examples. There has been a new emphasis on generic learning outcomes encouraged by the demands from employers for graduates to possess a broader range of skills. Teaching and learning methods in undergraduate courses that encourage students to become lifelong learners cite peer-assisted and self-directed learning as major elements in developing reflective practice and critical self-awareness. A study from the University of Zululand in South Africa reported on students' experiences of using peer assessment. This was a group of students who were completely new to it and professed beforehand that they wouldn't like it. They not only liked it, but they sympathized with their lecturers. They said, "It exposes lecturers to better written assignments and assignments with fewer mistakes because we use the feedback from our peers to prepare a final draft." So that's a good reason, if no other reason, for doing it. One respondent used that activity to express empathy for the lecturers, again saying the benefits of this exercise is that it shows us what the lecturers face in their offices when they're marking unfinished and not clearly thought out work. Another study from Sweden noted, "It's good to review other students' reports. You learn a lot, and at the same time, you put a bit more effort into finishing off your own report." Recent literature on assessment and feedback in higher education emphasizes the need to shift from teacher-led transmission modes of feedback to one where students develop and regulate their own learning. And with this, the ability to make valid and informative judgments about the quality of academic work they produce. This links with what we have said earlier about students needing to develop their own criteria for success. Feedback should be part of assessment design, with the processes of receiving and responding to feedback built into and made explicit in subsequent learning experiences and grading. And throughout the program, particularly at the beginning, peers and students have to be inducted into using peer feedback and valuing it as part of their learning. To sum up, good feedback practice helps clarify what good performance is, facilitates the development of self-assessment, delivers high-quality information to students about their learning. It encourages teacher and peer dialogue around learning. It encourages positive motivation and improves students' self-esteem. And it provides opportunities to close that gap between current performance and aspiration.